Welcome to Get Rich Education. I'm your host, Keith Weinhold. What is today's hottest rental type? You'll find out today. Also, what's the opportunity in self-storage units? Then a review of some top websites and phone apps for real estate investing and your productivity today on Get Rich Education. MC Laubscher is the host of the Cashflow Ninja podcast and president of Producers Wealth. He is on a mission to help you achieve financial independence and freedom as soon as possible. He achieves this by integrating the infinite banking concept with real estate investments to increase your returns and recapture cash flow that you are not even aware of that you're losing. MC shares the number one strategy of investors in his holistic wealth creation course at yourownbankingsystem.com.
Learn the easiest way to create wealth and passive income with real estate. Now you can access the best deals without the stress or hassle of having to find, renovate, or manage those investment properties. Narada Real Estate saves you time by providing you with passive income investment properties in some of the best U.S. markets. Learn more at PassiveRealEstateInvesting.com and download your free copy of the ultimate guide to passive real estate investing. There's no obligation and nothing to buy. Simply visit PassiveRealEstateInvesting.com.
You're listening to the show that has created more financial freedom than nearly any show in the world. This is Get Rich Education.
Hey, welcome to GRE. From Verona, Italy to Verona, New Jersey, and across 188 nations worldwide, I'm Keith Weinhold, and this is Get Rich Education. The hottest rentals today are single-family homes. That's according to two separate sources, both Realtor.com and John Burns Real Estate Consulting. The former recently reported that with the headline, "The hottest rentals are single-family homes, and boomers are snapping them up." Rather than reading the article, here are the highlights for you. Downsizing boomers don't want the maintenance of owning a home, and they also don't want to live in an apartment. More of them desire single-family rentals. In 2017, the Urban Institute reported that single-family rentals are the fastest-growing market segment. Nationally, build-to-rent single-family homes are only 4% of new single-family construction. That's expected to jump up to 6% just within the next year. So that is a proportional increase of about 50% just in 1 year. That's how much new demand there is for build-to-rent single-family homes. So that is single-family homes that are being constructed with the express intent that the owner of the home will be renting to someone else from day one. That's the segment that we're talking about here. And they are predominantly being built in the suburbs of southern states, from the Carolinas to Florida to Texas to Arizona. Some say the stigma of renting has gone away. It isn't just boomers demanding to rent single-family homes to have both lower maintenance and privacy. It's that single-family rentals are also popular with older millennials, ages 28 to 38, that can't afford to buy. We've talked about that on the show before. Now, Burns Real Estate Consulting reported that huge shifts are occurring in the rental market with the return to basics. They found that rental demand is shifting to a focus on affordability, with more renters willing to sacrifice square footage and sacrifice privacy and sacrifice amenities, and they're willing to accept a longer commute for this lower rent. So more people today are saying that affordable rent is what matters. Now, of course, these are general national trends with uneven trend lines between different markets, but Burns Real Estate Consulting has pointed out the trend of more suburban housing growth. Urban renters are moving, children in tow, to the suburbs to either purchase a home or rent in a good school district. All right, so the two emerging demand patterns there are lower rent amounts and better school districts. But pull back and think about that. Lower rents and better school districts, those two things don't really go together. So then something has got to give. And that thing that people are giving in on are those amenities. You're going to have to give up the Nest thermostat and the Ring doorbell then if you want a lower rent in a better school district. They've noticed that capital is flooding into a brand new asset class, and that is newly built rental homes. So again, these build-to-rent homes appealing to a niche that has gone unserved. The designs and amenities that need to change quickly, they've cited, are in urban areas, lower rents through fewer amenities and less private space because today's young renter is more likely to take on a roommate to save rent and less willing to pay a premium for great amenities. And then in suburban areas, we're seeing a shift back toward more affordable, family-oriented, value-oriented space that has plenty of square footage. And yes, the trend of brand new construction homes designed with renters in mind from day one. They believe that the amenity race is going to end. Younger renters are saddled with student debt, and many have parents that are not willing to help them pay the rent. While many luxury coastal urban markets have become oversupplied in recent years, suburbs have experienced less construction, and because of this, rent growth is expected in select suburban markets over the next 2 years. Some of the new boom towns where young people are going for great jobs and a great quality of life that they've cited, and their parents are following them there, are cities like Austin, Denver, Nashville, Dallas, and Orlando. Now, just my commentary here. Of those 5, only Orlando gives decent cash flow. Dallas used to work, but it's on the border now. So back to the Burns Real Estate Consulting findings. The hottest trend, verified by the explosion in their feasibility business in the last year, Burns's feasibility business, is this preponderance of newly built townhomes and detached single-family homes, again, for rent. These build-to-rent communities are most popular in Phoenix. That's been cited as the number one place where a lot of the pioneering companies doing this are located, but this is quickly spreading elsewhere. So there is increasing competition between apartments and single-family rental homes in a lot of these areas. That's the end of the material that I compiled from both Realtor.com and Burns Real Estate Consulting. So in summary there, our takeaways are that the demand for single-family rental homes is surging, and that's really validating because we've talked about their advantages on the show here for quite a while now. Basically, when people used to hear the phrase rental property, what would come to mind is they would think of a unit in an apartment building, but not any longer. Increasingly, it's single-family rentals and a suburban location with fewer amenities. That's really a sweet spot with the appetite of today's tenants, and that's who you're serving. That's what they want. You can find many preferred providers of single-family rental homes, often with fewer amenities, and these homes are already renovated, rehabbed, and under management at the same exact list where I buy my own properties, and that is at greturnkey.com. I am back in the United States today, beautiful and pristine Anchorage, AK, after a long foreign trip. Let's talk to our guest about today's best apps and websites for real estate investing and productivity. He's an expert with this. He publishes reviews about these platforms. Today's guest is a land investor and residential landlord. Previously, he had nearly a decade of experience in the commercial real estate banking industry. He is also the founder of retipster.com. They're a real estate investing blog that offers real-world guidance for real estate investors. Welcome back to Get Rich Education, Seth Williams.
Hey, Keith. Thanks a lot for having me back. It's great to be here, man.
Seth reviews real estate and productivity websites and apps, among other contributions that he makes to our industry. And this is the third time that we've had Seth here to discuss this over the years because new apps and websites do appear all the time. But first, Seth, you recently attended a self-storage conference in Indianapolis. So share some of the key takeaways there. This is for investors renting self-storage space to others and kind of an overview of what that niche is about.
I went to a self-storage event in Indianapolis, and my biggest takeaway was how much more there is to that business than I realized. I think this happens with pretty much any real estate investing niche out there, where you might think you have a good high-level idea of it, all the things involved. Once you really start getting into it and picking apart how you find deals, how you analyze deals, all the unexpected things that come up once you acquire a property, man, there are just so many wrinkles along the way and so many opportunities to do it wrong if you don't really understand what you're doing. And of course, with self-storage, It's very different from land, what I've always done, because with land, it doesn't require a whole lot of capital, at least not with the properties that I go after. I can pretty easily buy a property just with the cash in my bank account. I don't have to go take out loans. But with self-storage, it's like, unless you're already a multimillionaire and you're just looking for a place to put your money, you kind of have to be comfortable with debt. It's just something you have to do. And all the stuff that goes along with that, like getting approved and understanding what banks want to see in order to approve you. A lot of stuff involved there, but I could give you like the top 3 takeaways. It's probably the importance of getting, first of all, understanding how to analyze a deal, the number of units, the unit mix, how many of those units are actually being rented, how much of those are actually being paid on. A lot of times with mom and pop landlords, they don't keep very good books. They may report one set of numbers, but in reality, they're sort of like pocketing cash over on the side. It adds a lot of complexity to really understanding how much cash flow a deal is generating before you buy it. And that's if you're buying one that already exists. There's also a whole separate set of issues that comes into play if you're looking to build a new self-storage facility from the ground up. Mainly just a lot of the uncertainty and risk that comes with that when you don't have proven cash flow. There's definitely a lot of things you can look at, feasibility study and occupancy and supply in the market. But I mean, no matter how you slice it, there's just a ton of work that goes into the analysis of a deal before you actually invest in it. And it's very, very important. You can start losing money very fast if you make incorrect assumptions about that, which I guess is true with anything. But once you start working with self-storage, it's a lot bigger animal than like a single family rental property. So you want to have your ducks in a row.
It's funny. You attend a conference like that going in thinking that you are going to learn more. And your biggest takeaway is that I know less than I ever thought I did. I thought I was going to come here knowing more. And now I realize that I don't know what I don't know with something like self-storage. When I think of any new investment niche or something I'm not familiar with it, I start approaching it through a basic economic perspective, that being the supply versus demand dynamic. With self-storage, I think, okay, maybe an up-demand reason for that now is because we're in a prosperous time, but a down-demand reason is everyone's just got less stuff in their lives. For example, your iPhone now takes the place of your file drawer and your radio, scanner, copier, fax, camera, newspaper, even television for some people. So I don't know, maybe it's for the prosperous person that's collecting vintage cars that might be good on the demand side. What are your thoughts about supply and demand for self-storage?
Apparently, there's like a pretty set formula they look at whenever they're doing a feasibility study, where I think it's 7 square foot per person in, don't quote me on this, but it might be like a 3-mile radius of that facility. They look at how many other facilities are out there and also like what their occupancy rates are, if they can even get a feel for that. A lot of times they may not share what that is, but a big kind of a shocker, I didn't expect this. Apparently, a lot of the best markets for self-storage are not the ones where super prosperous and the economy is going great. It's basically the places that are either going up or they're going down because people are either moving there or they're moving away. Or a lot of times college or military towns, because there's a lot of residents that are only going to be there for a few years. It's not their long-term home and they need a place to store stuff. And that part wasn't a surprise to me. I think I assumed self-storage is for places where just tons of rich people live and they need places to put their stuff. And I think there's an element of truth in that, but it can also do well in places that are not doing well. And people are trying to get out of there and they're looking for a place to put all their stuff while their house is in foreclosure or something like that.
That would make sense that self-storage demand would correlate well with a high transiency rate in a local area. Well, Seth's here to talk about the best real estate and productivity websites and apps. We're going to talk about that straight ahead with Seth Williams here on Get Rich Education. Finally, Total Control Financial gives you checkbook control of your 401k and IRA money to invest in real estate. It's time to get your retirement money into your own checking account, but you've got to avoid the little-known tax that you'll pay with any self-directed IRA. Instead, it's time for the QRP. Learn more and get your free copy of the QRP book by text messaging QRP in all capital letters to 72,000. For a real estate investor like you seeking an income property loan, go to Ridge Lending Group, NMLS 42056. Over the years, you've heard President Chaley Ridge generously devote her time to you here on the show as a guest. Ridge provides investment property loans in most U.S. states, and you're going to find out how they've helped more people realize their dreams of real estate financial freedom than any other mortgage lender in the entire nation when you get started at ridgelendinggroup.com.
This is Profit Boss Radio's Hillary Hendershot. Listen to Get Rich Education with Keith Weinhold and don't quit your daydream.
Welcome back to Get Rich Education. We're talking about the best real estate investing and productivity apps and websites with Seth Williams from RE Tipster. Seth, I know you did a review about the Deal Machine app. Tell us about Deal Machine.
Are you familiar with driving for dollars, what that means and what that's all about?
100%.
Yeah,
I don't do it.
I don't really either. That's not really how my primary business works. But I know some people live and die by this, whether they're bird doggers or wholesalers. It's just a really good way to specifically identify one property where it's like, boom, right there. That's the one I want to go after.
Yeah.
I don't want to send out 5,000 mail pieces and just wonder who's going to respond to them. I want to target one property or maybe like 10 properties that you might drive by on an average day. Conventionally, the way that people have done this when they've been driving for dollars is they'd have to drive by the property, write down the address of the property, go home, look it up, find the owner's information, put together a letter, send it to them, and probably never hear back from them. So it's just laborious to get that whole process done. But Deal Machine, you still have to go out and drive to these properties and identify the ones you want to go after. But from that point on, it makes things a lot simpler because the way it works is you take out your phone, and again, the app is on your phone. You take a picture of the property and it takes that picture and puts it on a postcard. And you can also look up the owner's property information from the app. It knows where you are, like your actual physical location because of GPS coordinates and that kind of thing. So it's really easy to identify which house you're looking at, what the property owner's phone number, mailing address is, all that stuff. And you can even tell the app to start sending them one postcard. I don't know if it's every week or how often it is, but basically just start hitting them with mail over and over and over again. And it kind of just does this on autopilot. The main thing you have to do is get to the property, take the picture, and then tell it to start sending mail once you have that owner's physical mailing address. There's still some stuff you have to do here, but like if I was serious about driving for dollars, I don't know why you would not use Deal Machine. It seems so simple. And again, I've used it basically once or twice, I think, for the review that I did. So I can't tell you that it's like perfect from my experience with it, but I do know there's a lot of people that use it. And if that's a strategy that you want to pursue, it's not terribly expensive. I forget what the price is. It's the kind of thing where, again, if this is like a main avenue for how you find deals, it's sort of a no-brainer.
It's just remarkable that you can do that in a way. Again, we're talking about the Deal Machine app where while you're sitting in a car after you have driven up to an address, take a photo of a property, get the address, get the owner's information of the property, and you can even touch the start mailing button from your phone in the app shortly after taking the photo of the home. Seth does video reviews of these apps, and I watched you do the video where you did just that, Seth. The next one is the Deal Check app. I'm familiar with the Deal Check app because I have it on my phone. And actually last year we had the inventor of the Deal Check app, Anton Ivanov, here on the show. Tell us about Deal Check.
So Deal Check, their main value proposition is they have taken what a lot of people have different versions of like a rental property analysis calculators. I know I had an Excel spreadsheet that I actually got directly from Ken McElroy's book, The ABCs of Real Estate Investing. I know he's been on your show several times. Awesome book. But that was what I was using, and it definitely works. But Deal Machine has this app that you can either use on your desktop computer, but I think it was designed first and foremost for your phone. And I forget what the price is, but it's a pretty reasonable monthly cost if you want to open up all the features it can do. I think it's even free if you just want the basic functionality of the calculator. But pretty much just go down the list, plug in all the information that you have, and it will tell you the stats for that. What the cash flow is going to be, cash on cash return, all the stuff you would normally want to know about a rental property. You can also upload images of the property so you have a separate profile for each property that you're analyzing. When I first started looking for rentals, I just had dozens and dozens and dozens of these spreadsheets just spread all over the place, one for each property. And Deal Check basically just makes that process a lot cleaner, simpler, easy to use. So it's a similar thing, but if you're in a stage of life where you're analyzing tons of deals on a regular basis, it's probably not a bad way to keep your deals organized and just make sure you're hitting all the important points as you do your analysis.
So with DealCheck, like a lot of these apps, there's also a full website version. Yeah, DealCheck is a pretty comprehensive rental property analysis calculator, basically. You enter the property's projected income and all the expenses like the mortgage, vacancy insurance, maintenance, taxes, utilities, and management. You can even plug in, for example, the land value because that's something that can't be depreciated when it's going ahead and trying to calculate a more total return for you. You can enter factors like increasing your income over time with bump ups in rent. And in the DealCheck app, they do give away quite a bit of this information and usability completely free for you. But if you are interested in the premium upgrade, you can get 25% off a premium upgrade if you use discount code GRE25 off. Anton Ivanov offered that to our listeners last year when he was on the show, GRE25 off. Again, that's called the DealCheck app. Seth, the next one is an app that I'm not familiar with. It's called Tenant Cloud because I don't do any self-management. I pretty much stay pretty far away from managing my properties. Tell us about Tenant Cloud.
So are you familiar with Cozy and Avail and Buildium and those kind of property management software websites?
Yes, some of those like Cozy and Buildium are quite popular.
I've always been familiar with Cozy, and I got familiar with Buildium a couple of years ago. And Avail is actually, they've probably been around for a long time, and I didn't know about them until this year. But Tenant Cloud, they're one of the big 3 or 4 property management platforms like this, where from what I've seen, I've looked at all of them at least a little bit, if not a lot. Tenant Cloud seems to be the one that is ideal for the broadest range of people, whether you're managing one property or like 150 properties. Any of those scenarios can make sense. For example, Cozy, the main thing that they're known for is doing credit checks, credit reports, background checks, and then processing payments for the tenants. Basically just makes it all automated and streamlined. And most importantly, it's free for the landlord. All this stuff is paid for by the tenant. I always thought that was really cool. Tenant Cloud does all that same stuff, but it also can help you manage your accounting. You can manage a lot of your properties like property listings, which I think is also a thing in Cozy. And when it comes to the mobile app specifically, something that Tenant Cloud is really unique with is I think they're the only property management company that has a formal app that you can get in the App Store. I think I saw that Buildium has one too, but they're more ideal for like people who have hundreds of properties. It's not necessarily for the small mom and pop landlord.
Yeah.
At least that's what I've heard. But with the Tenant Cloud mobile app, it has a messaging service, so it's really easy to send messages back and forth from tenants to landlords to property managers to maintenance people. I don't think any of the other companies do that. Obviously, they can all communicate through email and phone if they want to, but having like a messaging service as an app on your phone is really useful. And when I was talking to the folks at Tenant Cloud, they were saying that because they have an app available, 60% or more of their tenants always use the app. They don't go on their computer to do that. And just the fact that that's available, and you can probably imagine like having an app automatically makes it way more convenient. And funny thing is, like, I think all the other management companies, their websites are designed to be very, very mobile friendly. Like if you go to the website and pull it up, it works and is easy to use and everything. They just haven't gone through the steps of making an app available in the App Store. It doesn't seem like it'd be that much more work for them to do that. But Tenant Cloud is, I guess, the only one that has gone through those motions so far.
If you, the listener, want to live a lifestyle where you can get messages from your tenants, maybe Tenant Cloud is for you.
Hey, that's it. There's one other thing I'll mention. Tenant Cloud, the way it was explained to me is that it's not just for the self-managing landlord. It's set up so that, say, if your property manager uses Tenant Cloud and you just as the owner want to be able to check in with them and keep track of the updates they're making to your properties, you can do that. So like you're never talking to anybody. You're just able to sit there from afar and see what's happening. That's another thing that Tenant Cloud can do. It's set up so that if you're a maintenance tech, you can have your own Tenant Cloud account. If you're a tenant, you can have your own Tenant Cloud account if you're just an owner or if you're a property manager. So they sort of serve these different groups. It's not just for somebody who is managing their own property. So that's another thing just to keep in mind.
That's Tenant Cloud. It sounds more app friendly than some of the similar services that are offered out there. Seth, the next one is one that you told me about before, BombBomb, the BombBomb app and bombbomb.com. And I found it super useful. Tell us about BombBomb, not so much a real estate app, but a communication app that you can use for anybody.
BombBomb is essentially a service. It's all cloud-based where you can send and receive video emails. So you basically just turn on your webcam or turn on the camera on your phone, go ahead and shoot a video of yourself. Just say whatever you want to say. I usually try to keep my messages to like no more than 3 minutes, preferably less than 1 minute.
Yeah.
And just go ahead and send out that email. And when the person receives the email, they're going to see a little animated GIF image of you moving around, which is just a unique thing. That's not something most of us usually see in our emails of the actual person talking. And you click on that and it'll start playing the video. For me, the first time I ever got a video email, it was like, it kind of blew my mind. It was, whoa.
Yeah.
I could hear this person's voice and see their face and hear the tonality in their voice. It just instantly, because I could see and hear them, it was as if they were sitting across the table from me. It's like not that should make me trust them, but like it just does when you can see a person versus just seeing text on a screen. It just kind of hit me right there. Like, this is pretty powerful. If I use this and if I actually do a good job of delivering a message that's engaging and impactful, like not rambling on for 5 minutes, but just getting good at delivering video messages, which actually does not come natural to most people. It certainly didn't for me, but I have found absolutely it makes a huge impact. I close deals from people across the country all the time where if they weren't able to see me like that, I don't know that they would ever really get comfortable doing a deal with me. It just goes a long way. I closed big deals this way. And even just when I want to make an impact, maybe if there's another influencer I want to connect with, there's somebody who normally would never give me the time of day, but because I'm the one in a million who will actually send a video email like this, it just kind of makes you stand out from the crowd and gives you a platform you wouldn't normally have if you were just relying on regular old-fashioned email. I've been using it for years now. It's been super helpful. I use it every week, if not every day.
Seth, you told me about BombBomb 2 to 3 years ago, and I began using it at that time. It's one of the best recommendations that you ever gave me. Even
cool.
Today, when I send a BombBomb email to somebody, typically they've never seen it before. I just get this amazing response, and wow, I was blown away. And I've even heard some people say, we want to forward that to our marketing department just to show them what you just did. And The interesting thing is oftentimes it can be faster than writing an email just to jump on a video there. And with BombBomb, you can even get these templates that they build for you that frame the video where you are, and it really comes off looking very professional. It's really impressed a lot of people. And I completely believe that it's helped you close deals. It builds that know, like, and trust factor. If you, an investor, want to email your property manager or your turnkey provider, they're going to get a greater know, like, and trust factor with you than they will with someone that's writing a text-based email, all other things being the same.
Yeah, I mean, probably my biggest complaint about it is that I have to wear a shirt when I normally wouldn't. But I mean, other than that, it's super, super useful.
Totally. Yeah. You might have to comb your hair once in a while with that. Yeah.
Occasionally.
Well, workflow apps are so popular. Trello and Slack are a couple of the more popular workflow apps. Tell us about Trello.
I assume you're familiar with it and you probably use it, right, Keith? Is that something you use?
I do use Trello almost every day.
Yeah, I was just using it this morning. So Trello itself, it probably isn't very new to most people. And if it is, definitely check it out. It's very, very useful and it's free. And it's basically like a task management software where you can set up a big list of to-do items and then segregate them from the ones that are in process. And then, when they're complete, you can click and drag them over to complete. And within each one of these little cards, you can have a title, you can add pictures, you can add comments, you can add all kinds of stuff. It's one of those things like, why didn't somebody think of this a long time ago?
Yeah.
So very, very useful app, but they have a mobile app you can get on your phone, which is pretty much the same thing. The ability to have it on your phone and the ability to add things to a list when you're out and about. You don't have to be right in front of your computer to do it. And the app is designed very, very well. I mean, I have literally zero complaints about it. It's very intuitive and easy to use. And if you're not using Trello, you should be. And if you're not using the mobile app version of Trello, you should be doing that too. So it's totally worth checking out.
So Trello is Trello, and it's a free task management app, and it synchronizes between your phone and your website, of course, like all of these applications do. Yeah, Trello is just a great way to visualize what you've accomplished and what still needs to be done, not just for you, but for anyone that might be working on your team. Like, for example, a blog article that I'm about to write, I will write it, and that is in my to-do column. And then as soon as it's written, I can move it over in my editor's to-do column, and they can edit it and place it on the website, for example. Or for properties I'm buying, it's just a very good way to see whose court the ball is in. So Trello and Slack, Slack, are some similar services that are both for workflows. The next one, Seth, is one that's not so real estate-ish, but it's more of a learning app. I've talked about it on the air before, Blinkist, Blinkist. Tell us about Blinkist.
So Blinkist was something I heard about earlier this year. And essentially, it's an app. Like, I think pretty much the only way you can use it is with the app on your phone, unless I'm mistaken. But what it does is it takes a lot of the like personal development, business success type books, and it makes this like Cliff Notes version of it. I think Blinkist has a team of people that will scour through these books and write this very quick summary that will take usually on average like 15 minutes to read through. They also have really high quality audiobook versions of it. That's kind of what I prefer to listen to while I'm out and about. It's just super useful because for somebody like myself, I don't really enjoy sitting down and spending like days reading a book just to get the point. I mean, there's a lot of books that I don't know if they intend to or not, but they kind of just like ramble on, like spend the first 20% of the book just laying the foundation for what the book is about, which I already know, and just taking a long time to get the point across. Like really what I'm after is like the 5% of that book that's like the golden nuggets that I want to walk away with. And
a lot of books are too long. They will go ahead and give you a thought paradigm and then give you 6 separate examples reinforcing that thought paradigm where it only took 1 or 2.
Yeah, and some books I actually think do a phenomenal job of that, and all the examples totally are helpful, but a lot of times you can get the point, like still get 80 or 90% of the value without going through all that. Just hit me with the main points so I can move on with my life. And when I first got Blinkist, I read through, I think it was like 22 books in one afternoon when I was on vacation with my wife in Mexico. And I will say it's not the same as reading through a book. I think you're definitely going to miss some things. Like there's some value in the narrative that just doesn't come through. But another weird benefit that I wasn't even expecting that I got, I was listening to How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, which was one of my favorite books. I read it for the first time like 15 years ago now. And there were like new takeaways I got from Blinkist that I don't ever remember reading in the book years ago, which is weird. I don't know if it's just somebody else's interpretation, like they got a different takeaway than I did, but just for what it's worth, even though you sort of miss out on some of the experience, you could also walk away with new insights that you never would have gotten on your own if somebody else hadn't sort of spoon-fed it to you. Another thing I'll mention with Blinkist is that when I read books or listen to just regular full-length audiobooks, it's pretty common for me to like zone out for a minute or two while somebody's talking. For the most part, that's okay. It's not the end of the world. With Blinkist, if you zone out for like 60 seconds, you've missed a lot. You really have to focus on what they're saying, because if you don't, they're just going to fly through all the main points and you'll miss it. So that's another thing is if you really want to get the most value out of it, try not to be in an environment where you're distracted or you can't pay attention.
Good point about Blinkist. It's being passed through someone else's filter, condense it down into these 15 minutes or less. Yeah, I don't care for audiobooks that much because typically the narrator is in such a monotone that I end up almost falling asleep and I have to rewind something 3 times because I found myself zoning out again. Maybe that's why I like podcasts, because there's some inflection and some personality there. But yeah, back to Blinkist, it's both audio and written. It's typically or wholly nonfiction that they're covering there. Just really useful, the Blinkist app. Seth, what about Rentometer? I know they have an app. They have one called Rentometer Express. I've used Rentometer in the past, and to me it just seemed really nebulous, and it was such a guide, and it really wasn't all that accurate, but I haven't checked it in a few years. Tell us about Rentometer. Is that something you find useful?
Yeah, so I actually did a review on Rent-A-Meter, and I basically wanted to get to the bottom of that because that was something when I first started looking at rental properties years ago. Rent-A-Meter was one of the first websites I discovered just in terms of, okay, like what's this place going to rent for?
Yeah.
I would plug the information in there and it would spit out a number, and I was like, cool. But then I realized like that's actually not that accurate. I mean, it might be, but the bottom line is you haven't given it that much information. All it knows is an address, number of bedrooms, I think, and then a dollar amount. I haven't told it anything about number of bathrooms or the condition of the property or the square footage of the property or parking available. So there's a lot of missing data. And given that, I think inherently, I don't know that I would ever take the information that Rent-A-Meter gives me and take it to the bank. It's just not enough data there. However, it's not a bad starting point. Say if you're looking at a new market, you know absolutely nothing about it. You just need a really quick, hey, where does this number fall in this neighborhood? Am I close? Am I off? From that standpoint, it's useful to some degree. There's also a paid version of Rent-A-Meter. It actually does let you put a lot of that data in there, like the number of bathrooms and how far away you want the results to come from, things like that. So I don't want to say it's useless. I think there's a time and a place for it. But if I really wanted to be confident about the number, I would talk to either my property manager or one in the area that actively has rentals there. And if anybody would know what properties are renting for, they would know. And they would also probably have to see pictures, understand the condition and stuff like that. Rent-A-Meter does have an app, Rent-A-Meter Express. It's basically the same thing as the free Rent-A-Meter online. I think it's only free for like 5 polls, and then it makes you sign up for a free trial. It's not totally free anymore, but super simple, super clean. Just plug in the data and it'll spit out a number for you. If you prefer to do that on your phone, decent way to do it.
Yeah, that's Rent-O-Meter for estimating the amount of rent that a particular property should command. Seth, have you ever come across an app that helps one manage their real estate portfolio and show the value of their portfolio and even integrate how much their mortgage loan balance is on it? So we're just talking about an overall portfolio manager now.
I have not. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I just have not seen anything like that. I don't have any firsthand experience. Do you know of something or?
I don't. I got a question from a listener on that recently, and I was like, that is a really good question. I just manage my own on a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet where I can
me too.
put the formulas in there that I want to show the percent equity that I have in any property at any particular time and all that. There must be something out there. And certainly you, the listener, you might have heard of something, so feel free to write in at info@getricheducation.com. Let us know if you have a resource for that. Maybe we'll look into it and talking about it on the air.
It is kind of interesting, though. The first time I ever wrote a blog post about top 10 best real estate apps for your phone, that kind of thing. And these things change so quickly.
Yeah.
And some of the apps are still the same ones I use, but a lot of them have either they don't exist anymore or there's something better out now, or the version that existed back then is now way better than it used to be. So, but yeah, it's a great topic to talk about and just stay on top of and stay aware of what's out there, because what was great last year may not necessarily be the best thing out there this year.
That's why we like to have you back from time to time. And most or all of what Seth and I mentioned have both a full version and a mobile version. The cost of most or all of them are pretty nominal. A lot of them have a free trial or free credits. Well, Seth, why don't you let our audience know how they can find out more about you and what you do?
If you're just looking for a website to go to, my main website is retipster.com. It's where I've been writing blog posts and reviews and tutorials and videos and all that stuff since 2012. I talk mostly about the land investing business. That's my primary business model. Also rental properties. I do a lot of that stuff too. And really, like if there's any software or service that applies to real estate investors at large, like everybody can use them in some way. A lot of times I do really, really in-depth reviews on those too. And when I say in-depth, I mean it. I spend days, sometimes weeks, putting these blog posts together. And my goal with every piece of content is to make it something that people would be happy to pay for, but it's free. So I expect everybody to walk away with game-changing information. And I try to change people's lives, honestly, with everything that gets put out there. So whatever you're interested in, head over to retipster.com. You can find a lot of stuff there. And if you don't find what you want, send me an email and let me know. Seth@retipster.com. And maybe I'll consider putting some together for you.
Seth's resources are really comprehensive and worth your time. Seth Williams, thanks so much for coming back onto the show.
Absolutely. Thanks, Keith.
Most of these apps and websites that we talked about are either free or come at a fairly nominal cost. One notable exception is BombBomb. That's the video email service, and I think I pay $400 to $600 per year for that one. You can probably find similar services for free, though, but BombBomb is pretty slick, and I think that it's actually the most important one that we discuss because real estate is a relationship business, and a video email is a great way for you to relationship build remotely. Other resources that Seth and I both use for transferring information and managing files are Dropbox and Google Drive. I think they're both very well known, and they're both free, at least up to a certain storage amount. Two other resources that we each happen to use are Evernote and Docusign. Again, these are two popular apps that you've probably already heard of. Evernote is a slick note-taking app. When you're out and about and you want to jot down a note, there you go. If you'd rather voice your message into the Evernote app, it will convert your voice to text and it will store it in the app for you. Docusign is for contracts where an electronic signature is required. If you're self-managing and you want to have your tenant sign a lease agreement, for example, then Docusign could very well be for you. And at last check, their entry-level plan was something like $10 a month. It's worth mentioning that since real estate is a relationship business and it's about connecting with people, that some of my most commonly used apps are simply Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I just don't seem to use Twitter nearly as often. Thanks to Seth Williams today for reviewing some real estate investor apps with us. I use an iPhone 10 myself. Perhaps my most unusual habit is that I don't use a case for my phone, like never. I don't want it to be too bulky. I like to wear it on my arm when I'm at the gym or running. I am unprotected. Yes, I engage in unprotected texts most every day, really. Oh dear, I can't even tell you how long I was waiting to use that one. To recap what we discussed, the hottest rentals today are single-family homes. What's trending positively are fewer amenities and a suburban location with a good school district. Self-storage units are an investment opportunity, but there's an awful lot to know. This is a rather show notes intensive episode today. All those websites and apps that we discussed can be found there for you. We have a ton of great wealth building shows coming up. Real estate investing and wealth mindset material for you that, as usual, is educational, actionable, and sometimes inspirational too. Until next week, I'm your host, Keith Weinhold. Don't quit your daydream.
Nothing on this show should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for individualized advice. Opinions of guests are their own. Information is not guaranteed. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. The host is operating on behalf of Get Rich Education, LLC exclusively.
Countless investors get killed on their long-term maintenance costs in their rental property portfolio, but that's far less likely when you buy brand new construction. Let me tell you about my friends at JWB Real Estate Capital in Jacksonville, Florida. They pioneered the build-to-rent model that allows clients like you to invest in new construction, turnkey rental property. That's why JWB has been featured on the front page of the Wall Street Journal and other national media. If you want new construction rental properties in your portfolio, talk to JWB. Give them a call at 904-677-6777 or visit them at newconstructionturnkey.com. The preceding program was brought to you by your home for wealth building, GetRichEducation.com.